Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Ethan.
And I'm Rick.
And this is Roster United, a board game podcast here today with a video podcast, a video episode. First time we're ever doing this. Something new, something different, but it has that same feel, of what we've been doing now for quite some time. Here today in Roster United, we are going to be doing what we always do, talk about board games. Today we have a Let's Talk segment where we review a board game. We have a Joust segment, which is a segment we love and has gotten a lot of likes, where we kind of discuss a question, compare board games. It's really kind of a huge genre, really. But we share and express our opinions about that. And then lastly, we have some news around the board, around basically the board gaming community. And that's what we're going to be doing today.
We're also going to take a little bit of time at the end just talking through some pop culture things, some video games, some movies that we're excited about here in the next few weeks that we're going to be playing and taking part of.
Absolutely. And of course, this is a video podcast, or video cast, I guess we should call it like that
video
now.
Pod?
Video pod? Something like that.
Podvid?
I don't know.
I don't know what it's called.
Neither do I. But I just know that we're recording right now, and you can see us, which means that we will also be seeing the actual board while we talk through these games. Usually, when you're doing a podcast, you have to describe certain things, and it can be kind of difficult without having that visual aid of seeing the board, seeing the cards, and things like that. But today, at least what we're doing in this video, in this episode, we're going to actually show you some pictures of the board of the game that we're going to be reviewing, so on and so forth, have a good experience with that. But of course, we also know that maybe not everybody is going to be watching this episode, which is totally fine. We are also going to do this for our podcast listeners as well. So this will be hearing friendly and seeing friendly, if I'm saying that correctly.
And when you mean by that, you're talking about your face, because seeing friendly is not the way I'm typically described.
Neither am I. I have the face of a radio host, and I guess the smartest thing to do was to make a video. So
believe it or not, there are no filters on
yes.
this video right now.
Yes,
believe it or not, no filters. This is
nothing.
This is what it is.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is authentic right here. This is what you get. And guess what? You're going to love it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Let's start off with our Let's Talk segment here today. Today we're going to be talking about the biggest, I would say, board game that came out this year in 2024. A game by Leader Games, designed by Cole Wehrle, the art by Kyle Farron. I believe that if I'm pronouncing his last name right there. It is Arcs. Arcs. Oh my goodness gracious. What an amazing game.
We're finally talking about Arcs.
We're finally talking about it. We've played it countless amount of times. We've had some great experiences, some experiences that, well, personally haunt my dreams. However that may be, though, today we are going to be reviewing this game. But first and foremost, let's take a look at how this game plays. Take it away.
Yeah, Arcs is a game for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and plays in 60 to 120 minutes. And just to be clear, when we're talking about Arcs today, we are talking about the base game Arcs, not getting into any of the Blighted Reach campaign expansion that allows you to play multiple games of Arcs in a row and have one giant score. This game is very difficult to really give you a feel for and explain through even with some video or audio, but we're going to go through and try our best. So Arcs is in essence, you're trying to score the most points to win the game. You can do that through a variety of ways of doing that. I wouldn't even really classify it so much as an area control game, although there are some area control aspects to the game. So in Arcs, basically you are powering or leading a nation around this particular galaxy full of planets that kind of orbit the central black hole system that I'm sure there's a very good name for in the book that I apologize for not having. But in Arcs, basically what you're doing is you have several items with you. You have ships that you can move around the map to colonize planets, to attack other players, to use to kind of block movement throughout the game. You also have basically there is a court in this game that you can send representation to, that you can gain influence over certain members of this court, which then you can collect in the form of cards. You can mine for resources, where you're basically taxing your planets that you control for resources. And you're basically can do all these things to gain points. And how are you getting those points? Well, on the right side of the board, there are several different types of point conditions or scoring conditions that can be available or not each round of the game. So basically, you can have the most collected trophies, which are ships or people's members of their court that you've collected. You can have the most of a certain type of resource, and again, you can do that. And the way that those are available or not is a person can basically declare their ambitions, or what they're called, can declare an ambition for a round, and that declares that that round will be scored. What that's doing is when you declare that ambition, the first ambition scored declared gets the most points for that round, with the first and second place down to up to 3 ambitions can be available in a round. At the end of the round, those victory conditions are counted, and the victors are given the points, and those ambitions are reset and have to be declared again in the future. And I'm kind of skipped around. I get that. Like, how do you do that? How do you move ships? Because at the core of this game, and what's been divisive for this game, is how you do those actions. And personally, we have enjoyed this aspect quite a bit, but it's basically like playing a trick taking game almost. You're not really doing tricks, but things that are in a trick taking game are how you do. So, just like in a trick taking game, someone plays a lead card. That card has a number, and it has, in essence, a suit, correct? Well, in Arcs, it's very much the same. You have a number on this card and a type of card that it is. And those types of cards each allow you to do the different actions inside the game, whether it's attack, or if it's move, or if it's influence, which is where you're taking your representatives and moving them to cards inside the court. If it's the ability to build more ships or spaceports, whether it's the ability to colonize a planet. All those things are done by that card. And the person who has the lead plays that lead card, and they can basically do any of the actions on their card up to the amount of pips on that card. And that number is separate than the actual power of the card. From there, the other players can do a couple of different options. If they want, they can simply play any card in their hand face down and copy the action of the lead card. So if the lead card allowed them to battle and they want to battle, they can play their card face down, and that allows them to do one action on that card. They can also go in a separate direction and play any card they want that doesn't follow the suit of the lead card. That, again, will allow them to do whatever that new card says, but one time. Where it gets a little tricky is you can also surpass the lead card. So if the lead card was maybe a 2 battle card, let's just call it that for simplicity's sake, I could play a 5 battle card, which now is going to give me the lead and initiative for the next round, and it's also going to give me all the pips and all the actions on there. And that part is a little bit confusing once you start into it, but you got to get used to that. And that hand management is where it really is part of the game. From there, you can do all these actions. One other thing I'll talk through real quick, if it's okay, is just the battle mechanic. The battle mechanic in this is very cool. When you go to do a battle, you're going to have your ships versus the other person's ships. The attacker is the only one rolling die, and they get a chip. They can roll as many dice as they have ships. And, certain cards may give you a couple extra dice, but basically, for the most part, you're rolling as many dice as you have ships. This is where it's kind of cool. You're choosing the different types of dice that you want. There's 3 different types. You can choose whatever combination of those dice that you want to do those battles. And I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more on how that plays into the strategy. But that's basically it. By the end of the game, depending on player count, at the end of each round, there's a number of points that if someone has surpassed that number of points, it's the last round. If not, the game can go up to 5 rounds.
Absolutely. That. By the way, I give you props though for trying to get that description of that game. It is pretty tricky.
Tough to without showing it. It's tough to explain.
It really is. But thankfully, we will have some visual aids up there, so part of the editing process there. But anyway, great job there. I kudos on you on that. So with all of that in mind, now is the question with everything going on in this game. How is the gameplay? Is it smooth? Is it, does it have some rough spots? There's a lot going on. Is it simple to track? What do you think about that for this game?
I think where it comes in that it's where it's smooth or not. I do think the game is smooth. In fact, you're getting to play this cool experience, and if you've got everybody playing that understands the rules of the game and knows how this works, you can finish an entire game, a 3-player game, in like an hour.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're not rushing. I'm sure if you're a little slower, you want to take your time. Might be a little longer than that, but you're really churning out these turns and moving through them pretty quickly. I just say it's the learning curve for folks, kind of getting their head wrapped around it. The thing about ARCs is everything comes down to that hand management, in my opinion, right? And you never have the best hand. Like, you very rarely do you have cards that let you just do everything you want to do in the order. Because if you have the initiative and you're the first person playing cards, you got to be careful of what order you're playing in, or you're going to lose that initiative. And if you're the other players, then you're kind of beholden to the cards that are played by the person with the initiative, and you're kind of trying to save the cards to take the initiative back if you want. You can seize the initiative by playing an extra card, which then is going to short you one of the turns of the round. So I think that you learning that and not seeing the limitations as being frustrating. But as far as just like playing it and doing the actions, once you've got those actions down, there's only like 5 of them. I think especially if you're used to playing hobby board games, I think it's pretty smooth once you can get that card mechanic worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to play it once or twice to get that down. You will have to probably constantly get reminders on how many of those pips can you do when you play down a card and things like that. But after a game or two, or even after a couple of rounds, you'll get the hang of it, and the game will go by like that. I think this game, after that learning curve, can be very straightforward. There are some things that can bend the rules, per se, a little bit. As in with those court cards, or with the lore and leader cards as well.
And I didn't discuss those very much, but
that's not part of the straight game,
but part of the game.
Yeah. But the court cards, those are the cards that that do kind of at times give you extra abilities and things like that. And it's just even playing a couple of times this game, I still had to remind myself that I had those court cards on my side. I had to constantly look down and reread those abilities so I know when to use them. It's not simply that it was tough. It was just more like there's a lot going on, per se, a little bit, during the board, trying to manage your turn and things like that. Just trying to plan for the future in this game. We'll obviously talk a little bit more about how depth this game goes. But the court cards are really fun, and I think sometimes you might have to reread them or whatever. But just so you know, court cards do at times kind of bend or change the rules a little bit. But that's the only exception.
But you have to go get those, right?
Yeah,
they're not just breaking out of the box. Like you are. There's a deck of these court cards, so you don't even see them all every game. But they give you maybe the ability to, in the game, the way the board is set out, you have kind of a system, and each system has like 3 planets that feed into a gate, and it helps you move. You can move into these gates and move around the board quicker. And there might be cards that just let you battle more in gates, give you extra dice in a battle if the battle takes place in a gate. There might be opportunities for you to double what the resource you get when you tax. Another thing to mention about those, and I like this about the game too, is you can kind of decide. I think the better players of this game are the ones that can pivot and adapt to what's going on in the game. Because what we've talked about is, some of those victory conditions are resources.
Yeah.
You can get those resources in a variety of ways. You can tax planets that you own and collect resources that way. You can also steal resources, and we'll get into that in the
Mm-hmm.
battle from other players, which is a fantastic mechanic. And you'll also can those cards that you get out of the court. They
Mm-hmm.
don't only come with powers, but they'll come with a resource icon
Yeah.
that also counts towards that resource.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about smoothness of the play, what I like about it is I never feel like I've just got to go battle. I've just got to
Yeah.
do this. You if you can adapt and pivot,
Mm-hmm.
you really, I think you can play the game the way you need to play it. It's kind of cool.
Absolutely. Which also plays into the factor if this game is hard. Really, it just depends on how you play it, right? After the first couple of games, it might feel like, oh, wow, After the first game, how I felt personally was, wow, there's a lot of depth into this game. There's a lot of layers that we have yet to uncover. A lot of different possibilities, a lot of different things to get points and kind of change things to benefit yourself during the game. But is this game hard after those first couple of times? I don't think so. At least I don't think it's as difficult as it probably was reading the rule book. I won't lie to you there. I do think, though, just unraveling into more of how the strategy sort of plays out. I think it's not difficult. It's just there's a little bit more you have to think about during your turns. I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I think personally for me, once you play it a couple times, the mechanics of how to play the game, to execute the turn, is not hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the depth that comes into this, and what I have come to appreciate about this game, and a lot of folks that listen to these types of podcasts or watch these types of videos are folks that play a lot of games, and not everybody. You kind of games come out so quick; it's tough to play a game a whole bunch of times. This one we've played a lot of times,
Yeah.
and every time I find a new level of depth
Mm-hmm.
to the strategies that are in this game. At first, it's like, I'm just moving my ships around. How can I do better than you? Oh, I'm going to collect these cards. But there is so much strategy just in declaring those ambitions,
Mm-hmm.
right? First off,
Yep.
when you declare an ambition, you're giving up the initiative because it wipes out the value of your card. Your card still has the pips on it. You can take all the actions, but it turns the power of your card to a 0.
Mm-hmm.
So you're surrendering the lead almost to do that. But what else you're doing is it's all about timing on those ambitions, because you may really want to declare the ambition on this card that's on the card. And by the way, you don't just get to pick what ambition you want. Say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm wiping out my card. Each card has one of the ambitions at the bottom. So if you're going to declare an ambition that you want, you've got to play the card with that ambition on it. The timing of declaring those ambitions, if you declare it early in the round, you're putting a target on your back, because everybody's going to want those points.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find ways to manipulate it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, you're giving up the round. But one game we played, I was able to hold off and bleed you guys of all the cards. And when I played when I led the card I wanted to and declared the ambition, you guys didn't have a way to surpass me. So I got to play the ambition, played it later in the round. And it's just kind of neat that way. So
Yeah,
it's like 3D chess. I mean, the way Cole Weirley designed this, there's so much. You just start picking up the strategies, every decision, but not in a way that weighs you down. You just start opening your mind to, like, oh my gosh, I can do this, I can do that. It's amazing, really.
Absolutely. The timing of your turns really just depend on how well you do and how well you succeed during that round. Like you mentioned before, with the ambition, timing it clearly can either literally, even I put it in my notes, can be a target. You're the prey now if you declare an ambition and you're leading that ambition for now towards the beginning of that turn. But if you do it later on, you're more likely to have success in getting higher points. The timing on this is everything, and it's not even just with ambitions too, but it's also with hand management as well, knowing what cards have already been played. If you can count that in your head, what cards have been played, what cards you have, and calculating maybe who else has what, Also, I believe knowing when to surpass and gain the lead, when to commit 2 cards to gain the lead, to then on a future turn maybe do ambition. All of that, even the hand management in this game is crazy. And it's not even just taking the lead. per se, but it's also just in general, from pivoting, from following, from doing these kind of actions. What can you do most in your turn? That's what you want to do, because there's times, and we both played this game many times, where certain rounds we just are dealt kind of a bad hand, or at least a hand that's lower, yeah, it doesn't match. Of course, you can pivot from that. That's what I love about this game too, and that's the depth of this game, is that you can pivot from really all kinds of strategies. If you were going for this, pivot to that immediately in a second or two, But sometimes you have those lower number cards that might be harder for you to get, or to surpass, excuse me, to get the lead and things like that. But even so, just the timing of when you want to do those things is amazing. Even the timing, by the way, of when you want to spend your resource tokens as well. Those are very important. See, there's two things about that I love about this game. The balance of it. There's certain resources out there, like the relic, for example. It can let you secure a card that you have influence on.
Yeah, and we should probably mention that mechanic, because I did leave that out in the explanation. Once you play your card, you have the opportunity, that Ethan's getting into, you have the opportunity to spend resources to do extra actions that aren't on that card at all, or are on the card, but you just want to do more of them. So you got to do those first, and that's where you're getting into. So we're just talking about the relic. I just want to pause that there, because
that's good.
Understanding that. So it's very specific in the rules. You play your card, but before you play any of the actions on that card, you have the opportunity to spend resources to basically do extra actions.
Yeah, they let you do different things, beneficiary things, but also those resources are used to score ambitions, right? And to help you gain the most points out of everybody. And the what is it? The securing those resources, they're limited. That's the word. They're limited. So it's not like everyone can have, this high number. There's only like 6 or 7. If you get 4 of those, you're likely to, you can either hold on to those, declare ambition and get points, or use them to get really good cards in the court. So there's that balance of what you want to do.
Well, you can add battle to cards
as well. Ambitions. Yes, it's not just
you
the
can
security.
Move. And the reason that's important is the way the cards are laid out. It's really ingenious. So there's no card. Like I said, each of the different types of cards have a mix of the actions. None of the cards allow you to move and battle. None of the cards allow you to influence, put your guys on those in the court, and then secure a card.
Yeah.
It's all segmented out. So you can't just go out and run the super turn. You have to balance, what card am I playing? And then can I use some actions to let me do different things with the card than they're intended to be? Very just genius design.
It is very neat. And one other thing, like you mentioned as well, is that this is not a war game. This is not an area control game. Though it may seem like it, right? It may seem like it, but it's
like
not.
Huge ships on a map game, but it is not.
It is not, and that's why it's also very important as well. Just the depth of it is, how far do you spread your armies? We've talked about this too. It's fine if you want to spread your armies. Obviously, you have buildings out there; they can let you collect their resources from that planet, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of benefits to that, but one of the downfalls of it for spreading your army too far is it gives opponents opportunities to steal your resources or to steal your cards if you declare an ambition, right? Again, it's all about that timing.
Do you want to talk about how that happens? It's probably a good moment to move into the battle and how the dice selection, what that does, and how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, to start a battle, you have to be in a space. You have to have ships in the same space as your opponent has ships, basically, right? So you have to be there. When you do the battle, obviously you have to play the action to do it. That you're declaring a battle, and when you do, you get dice depending on how many ships you have. And this is the cool part about the game. I believe you mentioned this as well in the beginning, is that you can choose 1 out of 3 different dice types. There is the blue dice, I don't know the exact word for it, but I do know it's the blue die. Basically, half of the results on that die are either blanks or one hit. Now, a quick little mention here: every ship is two hits. You need two hits
That's 2 hit
to
points.
2 hit points. Basically, that's how much life they have, and then that's destroyed. So those blue dice, you're not really, it's the lowest risk for yourself, and honestly, even attacking, it's
Yeah,
kind
it's the
of,
lowest
it's
risk,
okay.
and there's a reason why we say risk because every other die
Yeah.
has the opportunity to do something negative to you. Because in the battle, just to clarify this point, only the attacker rolls dice.
Mhm.
The defender rolls no die. But the dice that the attacker chooses can cause damage back to the attacker. It can represent the defender getting hits
Mhm.
on the attacker. Sorry about that.
No,
So
it's
these
fine.
blue
That's
dice
fine.
just have single hits on 3 out of the 6 sides. They're all 6-sided dice, and that's it, or blanks,
Mhm.
and that's it. So they do no damage back. They don't do a lot of damage, but they also do no risk back to the attacker.
Mhm. And that's only just the blue one, though. On the red die, though, it's a little bit more risky. You do deal a lot more hits. You do. But you also have the opportunity and the potential to hit yourself, hit your own ships, which can be catastrophic, depending on the situation during the game. There's also the last die, the orange die. It is the raid die. These dice are the highest risk, but highest reward as well. This die is the only die in the game out of the three where you can collect keys to steal cards or resources onto your board, onto your side.
So each
So it's,
spot
yeah.
on the board, you have your player board where you keep your resources. Each slot on there has a number of keys above it, and that's how many keys you need to steal that resource.
Mm-hmm.
Each card that you get out of the court that you secure that gives you those powers, they have keys on them, and
Yep.
that's how many keys it takes that another player can steal them.
Yeah, so as you can see on the board, there's a 3 key and there's a 2 key in there as well. So obviously, if you want to put your higher, your higher value resources, that's where you place them there. So you have a better chance of surviving those raids. But those raids also can deal buildings or military bases directly, but it can also deal yourself a lot of hits as well. So that's why it's the most riskiest. But in times of great distress, when ambition is declared again, depending on the timing, the raid dice might be the best die to choose, depending on when ambition is declared.
Depends what you're trying to do,
Yeah.
right? Because at the end of the battle, all the aggressor, the attacker decides how damage is dealt for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides, if he took 4 hits on 4 ships, he can spread that across all his ships, and none of his ships are destroyed. But maybe he did just 2 hits on the defender. He can put all those on one ship and destroy it, because at the end of the battle, all destroyed ships go to the other side's trophy. So if I destroy 4 of Ethan's ships, I get to collect those and put it on my trophy space. And again, one of the ambitions is called Warlord. Whoever has the most trophies wins that. So you're
Yeah.
collecting those as a way to do it. And those ships stay in that trophy area until an ambition is scored. So you're also stealing ships from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You, like Ethan mentioned, you can destroy buildings from folks as well, and that can cause if you destroy cities, that can cause outrage, which has other impacts to the game. So it's really, again, just a strategy of not just, hey, I'm attacking here.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to attack, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of strategy in that. There was a couple of games where we were playing and one person declared an ambition because they had all the resources, and someone just swooped in
Mm-hmm.
and rolled a whole bunch of keys and stole those resources in the last round and flipped the tide. I mean, like a 12-point swing on a 6-point ambition. So
Yeah, that's
just
crazy.
brilliant, genius move. I won't say which one of us did that, but it was extremely brilliant and just masterful. Really, I was in awe as it was happening, and extremely giddy about that. But again, no names to protect the innocent on this one.
Absolutely. I wasn't too thrilled, so maybe that's your clue to who did that smart Smart play there.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant,
You know.
just utterly genius play.
And also one other thing I just would like to mention really quickly, in case we didn't, if let's say for example, if you're attacking with 3 ships, it does not mean that you have to choose all 3 dice with the same color. They can be 2 attack die, 2 of the red die and 1 orange. It could be all blues. It could be 1 blue, 1 red, 1 orange. Whatever combination you seem fit at that situation. So feel free to get creative there and take advantage with what you got, basically, depending again on where you're at with scores, with ambitions, and things like that. Remember again, timing is very important in this game. Well, with all of that depth and everything, I think it's time now to give our final statements, our opinion on this game. What do you think overall after playing this game several times? Um, Obviously we're not counting with the leaders and lore this time, but just a straight board game, just a straight game. What do you think?
Yeah, and maybe we should briefly mention that all the leaders do. It's a way you can add leader and lore cards. Leaders give you some asymmetrical powers for it, and the lore does too. They just give you ways that break the rules of the game.
Yeah,
So
like
it's a way
literally.
it's a way to variable to set up, and I'll be honest, I I need to play with the leaders and lore more, but we'll get into that
Yeah.
later. But the reason I say that is I almost wonder if it more shoehorns you down a path
Yeah.
versus straight arcs. You kind of can. You just got to play with the game. So, but anyway, as far as the game, yeah, I mean, the game is fantastic. The more I've played it, the more I appreciate just the next level design of this game. I know there's other games out there that are, classics, can be considered better designs, but for me, this might be the most brilliantly designed board game I've ever played. Just the level of nuance that you pick up every time I've played it, I've enjoyed it. It's not my favorite game. It's not number one. That's still Star Wars Rebellion for me. But I'm going to give this my number 2 game. It's my second favorite game that we have that I've ever played board games, and I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
That is amazing. I have to agree with you there as well. This game is just it's amazing. There's nothing else to say. The strategy and the depth, the level of how every time you play this game, something new happens. You in your brain, you just have this little bit of surprise party in your head where you're like, okay, next time I know how to do this. I know how to do this better. And then the next time you play, well, now I know how to do this even better, and things like that. It goes on and on and on. I love the trick taking aspect per se. I love how the different actions and the pegs, and all of how the different cards are balanced, where not one card is overpowered than others. There's just a satisfying uh, there's emotion, I guess you could say, when you're just doing something right. When you declare an ambition and you win it, you feel very satisfied. You feel like you worked really hard for that. I love that. Stealing things as well, although I don't have the best examples of stealing.
I do.
You do.
I've got some if you want them.
You do. But
I go through them right now if you'd like.
Yeah, I know. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll leave those for another time. But stealing resources, stealing cards, and things like that are also a huge, satisfying sort of relief during the game. It's really, really fun. I love it. Just how this game is well balanced for anybody. I've played this game just a little quickly here. I played this game with some newer gamers, and it took them about a round or two to get it. But once they did, they fell in love with it. In fact, uh, uh, one of the players were actually deciding to buy the game themselves. So obviously, this game has a huge impact. It's very fun. It's probably my favorite cool, weirdly designed, the best leader game out there. And to your point with the number second game, it's actually my favorite game right now of all time. I absolutely love it. The hype is real, and it's definitely a game that I feel everyone should get their hands on. So for me, it is a 10 out of 10. as well. It is just perfection. Which then leads us to our second half of this segment. It's very small. It's our high or low. Basically, again, 10 out of 10s from both of our sides. We compare that to how other gamers are ranking this game to an average on BoardGameGeek.com. Its rating is an 8.2. Obviously, we each gave it a 10 out of 10. So we obviously think this game is on the higher side of that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the review of Arcs. We absolutely enjoyed it. We're happy every time we play this game, at least when I play this game. I want this on the table constantly. It's so fun, addicting. I love it. I absolutely do. Oh, English.
English hard.
English hard. English is hard. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, with that completes our main segment here with our Let's Talk Arcs review. Now it's time for our Joust, which we're comparing two games today. Arcs, which is the game we just reviewed, and another Cole Weirley game, Root. They're both games published by Leader Games, designed by Cole Weirley, and even the same person who does the art as well, Kyle Farron. So, Arcs, first off, not the question here for Joust, just so we all understand, is not which is the better game. It's which is the most you enjoy. Which game out of these two do you enjoy most? That's what we're talking about. We're gonna not really give a whole lot of in-depth into Root, just because for time's sake, it might take us a little bit to get into how Root plays with all of its crazy factions and stuff like that. But
there's reasons why these games are compared. They're both designed by Cole Weirley. They're both designed by Leader Games.
Absolutely.
Similar art style. They also have some asymmetry to them, but obviously they're different games, really, in the way the mechanics work and the way they play. So the similarities, kind of start there with the designer. I would say that they each kind of are known for a couple of different things, in my opinion. Arcs, as we've already discussed, is definitely known for the mechanics around that card playing mechanic and the way it is laid out. Definitely is really the signature piece of that and that strategy. Root, I would say, is known for its asymmetrical factions.
Absolutely.
In Root, the base box comes with, I believe, 4 different factions that you can play, and each one of these factions plays completely different. And, you have the cats, who are kind of your typical build, spread, attack. You have the birds, which can ramp up and do a lot of actions quickly. But then you've got the other wilderness faction, the other animals who are sick of the birds and the cats, and they play like insurgents. They kind of come in and do hit and runs. Yeah. And then you got this vagabond cat. Whoa, you got this vagabond guy who's just running around and he's trading and stealing stuff.
Yeah.
They're just completely different that way. And I guess just to get into the discussion a little bit, that's one thing that I have appreciated about Root. Not just the asymmetricalness of it, but that they just keep adding factions and new ways to play. I mean, in the expansions, you've got a lizard cult guy that are going around and basically just converting different people's, different folks' people to your side. Mm-hmm. You've got a river folk, and they get their points off of traveling around and being mercenaries.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, and they just have a new Kickstarter that just ended a few weeks back, or maybe a month at this time, and it's got 3 whole new factions.
Yeah.
And they're each very cool and just unique, and it's crazy how flexible this system has been with the cards and the way the board is laid out that has allowed these different factions to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think personally, both of these games are very fun to play. They're very enjoyable. You have a great experiences with both of them. I love how Root, like you said, is very asymmetrical. There's a lot of amazing factions. The story behind the factions, honestly, is what captivates me the most. I love how it all fits really well. They're different, but they fit really well. I play, obviously, the physical copy, but they also have a digital copy of the game as well, and that is amazing. That's got me into Root as well.
It might be the best digital like iPad.
Yeah,
You can get it on Steam, and it might be the best digital copy version of a board game there is. I mean,
absolutely.
down to the aesthetic, the feel, the music. Sometimes we just play the music out of there off the app as we're playing the physical copy. The music is
Absolutely.
so good.
It is amazing. And I love Root. Root is fun. You're trying to get the 30 points no matter how many players are playing. It's just 30. You're in this map. Again, it's kind of a war game per se, a little bit. It's not an area control game, though, I will say that. But it's just really fun how sometimes some action or some factions, excuse me, like to attack. Others don't. Right? Others like to negotiate. That's how they get their points. Everybody gets points differently, which is just so fun. And again, that balance of it, I enjoy it. I feel like every time I'm playing Root, it's just man. I get chills. I absolutely love it. The experience. It feels like I'm a young adult, right? But I feel like a kid per se when I'm playing Root. Just I don't know why. I love Root. It is absolutely amazing. I love how it doesn't depend a whole lot on how you play cards. Really, cards are just
But you
used for
can do
you
cards. You
can
can focus on
you
that.
can,
That's
but
where the depth comes in, I think.
absolutely. But even playing this game a whole lot too, it goes down to how you play with the main faction itself, and I love that. It's really really cool. I like though how you can craft cards, get points from there. How the vagabond runs around and tries to trade with you and tries to get those resources off of your hands, and then he's now favored with your faction and things like that. I absolutely love that. So Root is a true joy. But Arcs, on my opinion, though, I love Arcs so much, and like we've discussed, every time we play it, there's always something new to learn, something new to get from the game, and it's just so addicting. I don't know why. If you're asking me which one do I enjoy most, I don't know how to answer that. They're both great games. So while I decide really quickly, I'm going to hand it off to you. What do you think? What for you and personally?
Yeah,
What have you enjoyed most?
they're both great games. I enjoy them both for different reasons. Um, they both have difficulty learn in the sense that in Arcs we've talked about you've got to learn that card mechanic. In Root, it's you have to teach each player their faction each
Yeah.
time. So if they haven't played that faction before, they have to learn it. So that's where it's really important moving forward. I would say that I probably where the discovery and root comes out is those factions and learning how to master them and then learning another new faction and learning how to master it and how to play it with the other factions. In arcs, I think that discovery comes a little more natural within the rule set. And I mean, it's hard for me to say which one. I mean,
Yeah, which
I
one?
will sit down and play either one anytime.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say right now, for me right now, it's arcs. Because it plays good at different player counts. It plays good as a two-player game. It
Mm-hmm.
plays good as a three-player and four-player game. Root, I've enjoyed Root. We've been able to get other players into it. So I'd probably give Arcs the slight edge right now. But man, when that next Root expansion comes in the Kickstarter, it might switch back.
Yeah, I probably have to agree with you there. I think Arcs is probably higher. I enjoy Root a lot. I've played it since it first came out in 2018, right? So that it's been a while. It's been a while, a couple of years now. But Arcs is just there's something about it, the feel that I get playing it, the depth and strategy. As a gamer personally, I love that. I love that sort of revealing layers. Shrek put it best, right? With the onions part. You unpeel that onion, and you keep finding different layers and stuff. And
Like a parfait?
basically, oh yeah, yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly. We're doing
Shrek humor?
Shrek humor in the show as well. So subscribe if you like that. But anyway, Arcs. I love Arcs. It is the onion, man. It is amazing. So many layers, so many depth. It doesn't stink though, unlike onions. It's
No.
actually really
It's more like a
amazing.
parfait.
Exactly.
And Root has that too. Root just has it in those factions. And
Yeah,
those
it does.
factions are I don't think they're limiting because there's a ton of factions, and the way you play those factions against the other faction mix is important. But you definitely have to play a certain way based off your faction. Whereas arcs, every game's different depending on every round's different depending on the hands of cards that you're dealt.
Absolutely. Both really amazing games. We do recommend you going out and getting both of them if you can. But which one do you think is better? Obviously, that's the main thing. What do you think? Comment down below on Spotify or on YouTube as well. Yes, I gotta start saying YouTube now. That's new for me.
Yep.
Now we're doing that. So there you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our next and final segment is a segment that will be ongoing. It is the news around the board. We talk about basically just upcoming news alerts, things like that from different publishers. Today, we want to bring it, though, to the digital world of board games today. We have a couple of announcements, just really quickly, really small segment here. For example, again, taking it to the digital board games, these last couple of weeks have been huge for the digital world of board gaming. First, we have Arc Nova Digital, which is now on Steam, and you can try it out for yourself, as well as Cascadia Digital. I have seen some gameplay videos of it. I've seen some pictures, and I gotta say, it is beautiful, especially Cascadia. I love Cascadia, how it looks. There's when you place the tile down, it actually shows that little animal either walking around, or the fish, the salmon, it's actually swimming in a circle and things like that, or the hawk or whatever. It's really cool. I love Cascadia personally, so I'm a big fan of that, and what they brought to the table with it is really cool. I love
and that's on Steam.
That's on Steam.
That's
it will be released, I believe, on iOS. Eventually, I'm not too sure. I didn't see when it was going to come out for iOS, but I know it's on Steam right now for you all to try. Really amazing. Can't wait. And by the way, Arc Nova. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. By the way, Arc Nova, though, I don't know how you can fit that game in an iPad like screen. It is crazy how they did it. They did actually a pretty good job with it.
But that's
I like
only
it.
On Steam, also not on iOS yet.
Yes, that's only on Steam. But by tablet, I meant like how big the screen is to fit, to fit that game in. You don't have that much space as you do in a table, right? So, but they did such a great job from what I could tell. It looks clean. It looks good. It feels like you are playing Arc Nova. So I'm really excited to try out both of them. And obviously, we have a segment where we do talk about a little bit more in depth on those digital board games. Next,
I would say real quick too, just to add, if you were part of the Kickstarter for the Nature game, they did do also you probably saw that, a lot of folks saw that they are doing an app for the Nature game, which is kind of based off the old Evolution game. And it looks just gorgeous. I mean, just gorgeous. We saw the box and some of the components at Gen Con. It was beautiful. They did release the digital app for that, the beta version of that. If you were a part of the Kickstarter backers, or if you didn't back at that level but change your mind, when you go and fill out the pledge manager, you can add that back in. So again, just another upcoming board game app. But the digital they did release alongside the Kickstarter to start it's in beta. Sure, it'll be fixed, but they did release that as well.
Yeah, and they're continuing to be better and better, these digital board games. Again, on iOS, Android. These couple of games that we've talked about have been on Steam, so they look amazing. They look beautiful, as they should be. The game does respect that, absolutely. Well, our last announcement also has to do something with a digital board game as well. Actually, it kind of follows the theme we've been talking about today. Because as of a couple of weeks ago,
at PAX, I believe,
Leader Games and Direwolf Digital announced that they are making an ARX adaptation on iOS and on Steam later in 2025. Yes. Yes.
Great video right there.
This is amazing content.
For you listening and not seeing, that was Ethan fumbling with trying to get the box up in front of the camera.
If you could not hear that, I applaud you. Thank you for that. But anyway, ARX is coming to a digital format. Look, I'm sorry. I'm going to say it now, though. Direwolf Digital does the best digital board games there are out there. They just do. Their feel for it. They really go above and beyond with making you feel like you're inside that world of the game. For example, Root, like we talked about, is amazing. It's probably the best digital board game out there. It's one of the best video games out there, honestly, on the tablet. Super fun. It looks gorgeous. And again, like you said, the music amazing. So if they can make Arcs, that same team making Arcs, oh my goodness gracious. I mean, I'm gonna be it's probably gonna be like $10, I would assume,
I just want the
like it did
soundtrack.
a Root, but
I
yeah, I
want the
do that
soundtrack
too.
off of it.
But man, if Arcs can be just as good as Root Digital, we're in for a treat, ladies and gentlemen. So that's going to be very, very exciting. I can't wait for that. I did hear on their announcement that they are doing some previews for it at the first quarter of the year in 2025. It will release, though, a little bit later. So I can't wait. We don't have to wait too long. So that's going to be very exciting for you and for me, for everyone who likes Arcs and likes that digital format of board games. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was it for our news around the board. And actually, that was it as well for the podcast, except
Briefly,
there is one thing.
quickly, we just want to talk through some things that we're doing outside the board games that we've just been real excited about. I'll kick us off. This week is the Lord of the Rings anime movie, The War of Rohirrim, at least that's how I'm pronouncing it, with Helm Hammerhand and that story that they made up outside of it with all the music and stuff. That just looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I want to go see it.
I want to see it. And it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long for an animated movie. I love that. I want longer animated movies. I absolutely do. There's also, by the way, that came out this week, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on Xbox Game Pass. And I believe on is it on PlayStation?
No, it's
only on
not
Xbox.
Yet. I believe it will come to there. They did say it's coming to PlayStation, but it came out Game Pass. It's on Xbox. It looks fantastic. Luke's
really
playing it. My younger son's playing it. He's a big indie fan, and he's been dying, so he's been taking the reins on that. But
it's really cool.
It's been really good. Also, we're enjoying the Marvel Rivals when the servers are up. That's kind of what Overwatch could have been. Overwatch 2 could have been. So we really enjoyed that as well.
It looks amazing. They did a great job with it. The heroes, they feel like they're playing with Captain America, with Iron Man, but in a PvP game. It's incredible. I absolutely love that. And one more quick little announcement I forgot to mention as well is that we will be doing a Game Found and Kickstarter updates in a separate video. This video right here is our core podcast episodes, right? But we will making a separate episode just talking about certain Kickstarters, basically crowdfunding projects out there for board games as well. So there's a lot of good stuff like that. For example, one of the hottest games out there, and I need your help actually to pronounce it here on the hotness. It is, if it loads, why isn't it? It's this one right here. Enormity. That is one of the top. That's actually number one on the hotness. It's pretty cool. Basically, it's a dungeon crawler game, and these aliens come out and attack you. And you basically, something happens to your ship, and now you have to survive. Kind of like Aliens, you know that? Yeah, it's kind of like that. But anyway, we'll be following this and many more other projects as well throughout Kickstarter and Game Found, and giving you updates about them, seeing if it's really worth your time and money to get the game. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed that announcement. We hope you enjoyed this episode, actually, in general. And with that, I am your host, Ethan.
And I'm Rick.
And this has been Roster United, a board game podcast. I'll see you all on the next one.